What is up, guys? You are watching TUGGtv and welcome back to another episode of VST Thursdays. While the world continues to be in quarantine, either imposed by a government or self-imposed, one thing a guitarist would want to do is continue to play and make music. And in order to do that, a lot of us bedroom jammers are turning to VSTs. Now, VST or virtual studio technology has been around for quite some time and has come a long way as the years have progressed. As part of what we do with VST Thursdays, we look at VST amp simulations, both paid and free. So today I'm going to be looking at a completely free to use VST by NaLex. And essentially I'm going to be shooting out not just one or two, but a bunch of amp simulations, and I'm going to let you know what my thoughts are. Before we get into it, if this is the first time you're on this channel, be sure to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button along with the bell icon for more updates from us. We do a lot of content, metal music related, and of course VST Thursdays, which takes place every alternate Thursday in the month. So here it is, guys. This is the website. Everything that I'm talking about is going to be linked in the description for you to go ahead and access. And as you can see over here on the website, he makes a bunch of stuff modeled off different types of amplifiers. So you've got amps, you've got preamps, and a lot of other stuff. For the sake of this video, I am predominantly going to be focusing on the amp sims. The 4 simulations that I'm going to be testing out today are the Crunchman, which is loosely based off a Friedman amp. We then have the Ninja, which is a very well-known option from NaLex. Apart from that, we have a Pectifier, which you guessed is based off a dual rectifier. And finally, a multi-amp simulation called Amplex. I have linked an article in the description which talks about these amp sims in further detail in case you want it. And it lets you know what are some of the IR pairings that you can do in order to get a great sound. So this is Crunchman, as you can see, based off of Friedman. Next one, we have a Ninja. Now, I don't know what this has been modeled off, apart from the fact that it is a tube amp and definitely looks very metal. So I'm keen to look at it. The Ninja IRs, a bunch of IRs that you can download and use with it. Pectifier, quite straightforward, a dual rectifier, simulation over here. And finally the multi-amp, which is called Amplex. All right, so I'm locked and loaded. And what you're seeing over here is the gate that I'm using. So I'm using a analog rack noise gate by Nimbrani Audio, again, which is free because these amp simulations do not come with an inbuilt noise gate. Another point you have to keep in mind is that the amp sims don't come with a built-in IR response in it. So you'd have to load up an IR response and then load the cabinets that you want to use. So from that perspective, I'm using Lancaster Audio's Pulse IR loader. Pretty straightforward. Here again, linked in the description. You can of course use this or use anything else of your choice. I've used NAD-IR in the past, so you can go ahead and download that and use it as well. To keep a level playing field, I am going to be using it with an Engel IR that I've loaded out over here. The reason I chose this is because I've not seen any pairings with an Engel amp with any of these simulations. So that's the only reason, of course. So this is our first option. We've got the Crunchman. As mentioned earlier, it's based off a Friedman amp. So you've got HBE and BE, which are brown eye and hairy brown eye, which is from a Friedman language, crunch, and then crunch with a little more oomph. That's what HBE is. You have the gain switch, fat, in case you want to go ahead and fatten up the tone overall. CFF, which works very similar to the C45 switch that you have, which essentially works as a bright switch. Then you have all your knobs to go ahead and fine tune the tone that you need, and a power amp, which in a lot of ways is working like a preamp. NaLex Crunchman is now active. Let's see what it sounds like. So let's turn this down, brighten up the tone a little bit. That C45 definitely makes a difference. I want to see what it sounds like on HBE. Alright, that's pretty cool. What else do we have? Power amp. As I mentioned, you can go ahead and boost the signal if you need. Gonna drive it down a little bit, turn the fat off. Let's see what we've got. Definitely has that Friedman element to it, and I do like the fact that the tones are well rounded off even at stock. Next amp has been loaded up, and as you can see over here, this is the Ninja. Very metal looking amp. It's got both options for drive and clean. Let's hear the clean first. Alright, pretty nice, pretty straightforward. Let's move into drive. Not as rounded off as the Crunchman, but definitely a very workable amp over here. It's quite hot, which means if you are playing a very aggressive style of music, I definitely see it working. But if you are not playing a very aggressive style, probably you'd need to tame this down. Another benefit I see with the Ninja is in case you have a guitar like the one I'm playing and the pickups aren't very hot, that's where this amp will come into the picture. But if you've got very hot pickups, definitely gonna have to tame it down. And I think you'd be able to achieve that very easily with this, power amp switch. Make a couple of minor tweaks, bring the treble down, and here we have a completely different tone. Let's now move on to the Pectifier. So as you can see, dual Pectifier or dual rectifier. Rev 1 and Rev 2, generally to my knowledge, is that Rev 2 would be the modern amp and Rev 1 would be the vintage amp. Quite nice, quite well rounded off. Let's come to distortion. I'm pretty sure this is one of those amps which, if I load up with its IR, will give you that very typical, rectifier Mesa engineering sound that you would expect. I think the only thing that's holding this amp back is my IR, but then again, as mentioned, to keep a level playing field, I'm just going to stick with this. And finally, of course, this is our multi-amp simulation. You'll see that there are a bunch of presets that you can select from. So you already have the Crunchman and the Pectifier, which we have seen. Gerbert, what I read is based off a diesel V30 amp. So in case that's what you're looking for, you can go ahead and load. And then you have the Uber simulation, which is what we're going to be trying out, which is a Marshall simulation. It does make me wonder, if you have the Crunchman and Pectifier simulations available separately, what different are you going to do over here? So maybe I'd be interested in loading up the Crunchman. Alright, that was the Crunchman, which is HBE with the C45 on. So I'm going to keep the fat off. Oh, I noticed that the Amplex does not have fat in it. So HBE, C45 on. Let me keep the power on flat. If I noticed anything until now is that the Crunchman amp simulation on its own kind of sounds better because it's a little more rounded off and I like my tones that way. The Amplex, on the other hand, is a lot hotter than the Crunchman stock simulation. And a little bit dirtier, so I'm guessing there is some amount of work that you'd probably have to do. I guess it comes down to personal preference. If you'd rather just have one VST and load up your presets through it, probably you can look at the Amplex. Or you could just go ahead and, get separate amp simulations and load them up the way you want in your signal chain. I would probably prefer the latter simulation, which is called Uber. Let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, it's definitely got that Marshall bottom end to it. Again, like the Pectifier, I think the only thing holding this back is the IR cabinet that I've loaded up. Alright, so those were the 4 amp sims, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shoot them out. So I'm going to play one little riff, one after the other on these amps, and you let me know if you can pick up on a difference. Make sure you're using a good set of headphones or speakers to pick up on finer differences. Alright, so that was the Shootout. What did you think about it? Which among these are your preference? Let me know in the comment section. I am completely blown away by the quality of these amp sims, because it is completely free and it's really hard to believe. I also understand that amp simulation has come a long way, and this really shows. I also like the fact that they're quite simple to use, very straightforward. So if you're not someone who's very experienced, you won't have a problem with this. Turn a couple of knobs, get an IR that you want. As mentioned, you can work with some of their pairings itself, and then you could define the tone that you want. I mean, if I have to be honest, I think this guy knocks a lot of paid VSTs out of the park. This was completely unexpected. Although this is free, there is an option for you to donate. Probably that goes towards his R&D. So if you are feeling generous and have a few dollars to spare, go ahead. With that, I come to the end of this episode of VST Thursdays. What did you think about this? What did you think about the simulations? Do you use any of the NaLex amp simulations? Let me know in the comments below. Is there a particular VST you want me to check out? Again, let me know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and until next time, this is TUGGtv signing off. Stay metal.